Okay, so it's Smile currently pretty much breaking records, being this whole powerhouse of a horror film. Terrifier out there doing the same thing. I think it's a great time for horror, and like I said, we've said it so many times on the channel, and we'll keep saying it. 2022 is going to be looked back upon as one of the best years for horror, and definitely deserves to be. Let's talk about Smile a little bit more. However, I talked about it already in my ending explained, but I feel like in that ending explained, I sort of just like went over the plot and the ending and my interpretations of it. Here in this video, we're going to go more in depth into the themes and everything about it as well. So make sure you are hitting that subscribe button and notification bell, because we are currently running a giveaway for 25,000 subscribers. All you have to do is be subscribed to the channel, comment below you're subscribed, and that gets you an entry. And you can follow us on Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram. Each one of those you follow us and let us know you're following us on. That gets you an extra entry, so a total 4 entries. So the prize will consist of movie tickets for a movie of your choice. On top of that, you also get some goodies from some movies I've watched as well, and more of those details are on the giveaway video, so check that out. But let's get into these this video talking more about the themes of Smile and my thoughts and all of that. So Smile definitely is a movie about trauma. I think this is definitely, like, at its core what it is all about. And I think it's sort of about how trauma is passed on from one person to another, and it's sort of this endless cycle of trauma. You know how they say, like, you have to break generational trauma and all of this in order to be free from it, or else you're just like passing it down. So if pretty much like from your family you have all of this trauma, and then you pass it on to their children, and your children pass it on to their like things like that, this sort of cyclical thing that trauma is. And I think that's at its core what Smile is all about. It definitely is that, especially with our main character who is going through all of this after her mother has currently dealt with all of these issues herself, and now herself is sort of like presenting them as well. And it sort of got accelerated from seeing what her patient had done as well. If you look at it from like just a surface level and don't try to think too much about there is a curse or a demon or something like that, it sort of made sense why our character went down such a spiral seeing her patient do what she did. And that was the reason it sort of like unlocked this hidden trauma she's always had with her and sort of dealt with from time to time. But that sort of like moment where she saw what her patient did was sort of that sort of awakening, and sort of like opening up Pandora's box for everything that she had been repressing for so many years, because she never really had a good way of dealing with it. So all she did was push it down, push it down, push it down, until it finally just exploded all. And that's what we saw in this movie as well. I think you can also look into it as her going back to her home that she grew up in, sort of trying to get to the root of the cause of it all. But sort of dealing with it alone was not the correct choice, because, you know, you really can't tackle these issues all on your own, especially when they're so heavy and they've been so repressed for so much. It sort of comes out and attacks you altogether, as we saw in the final climax of the movie. And that pretty much was all of her trauma just taking her. And the reason is, like, she just shut down everybody as well, and literally shut off from the world when she wasn't even letting her ex come in to try and help her with dealing with this as well. You can sort of see the house as being her mind, that she's just locked in herself, and she's just trying to sort of get a grip on it all by herself, because she doesn't want to sort of make anyone else hurt or pass any trauma to anyone. But if they're equipped to help you, then they might just be able to help you. And I think that's something that the character didn't really take into account, because she was so consumed by the fear of hurting more people that she just wanted to deal all of this on her own. And I think that was a big mistake that we saw that happen to her, because at the end of the day the thing came and consumed her as well. And so that's pretty much a basic understanding from me about the movie in itself, if I'm looking at it in a deeper level about what it's trying to tell. And that was one of the things I really did enjoy about this movie, is that it was sort of, in its marketing, in my opinion, felt more goofier, and sort of like it was just going to be this sort of like quick horror cash grab type of thing. But at the end of the day, it turned around and surprised me with how much it was more than just that. And it sort of blended well this sort of idea of elevated horror. I know that term gets like tossed a lot these days, but sort of at the same time a just good scary film. But at the end of the day, you go with this lesson of trauma and dealing with trauma and those around you as well, and not really having to shut yourself away from everybody because you're dealing with someone, and not really shutting yourself away from the world just because you're dealing with all of this trauma, but trying to get help and sort of this community feel that should be with this help, as well as having a conversation about the medical industry in itself and how a lot of these patients weren't really treated the way they should have been treated by the agencies. And all of this was a nice little thing we saw in it, not really brushed upon as much, but sort of like a little bit in there, enough to know that they are trying to talk about that as well. So I mean, that's me just dissecting the film a little bit deeper and all of that. And I mean, of course, I think that all of us knew it was just about that. So the director themselves actually talked about this, Parker Finn, and this is what they actually told Cinema Blend. I was really interested in kind of investigating the sort of stuff that we're all carrying around inside of our heads, whether it's our fears, anxieties, traumas, and what we do to try and mask that from the world. And then at the same time, I wanted to explore and really place the audience in the shoes of a character who feels like their mind is turning against them, and what that might be like to experience, and sort of present that in a way that audiences may not have thought of before. And I really wanted to do something so like internal and psychological, but also bring in these external extraordinary elements and kind of weave them together till they're indistinguishable. So pretty much, yeah, like the director says, there is this way that you can sort of make this film happen and present these ideas, but then there is the way that Smile did them, which I thought was a pretty interesting way to explore this sort of like issue that a lot of people do face. And it's something that I think a lot of people don't really talk about as much as they should, and something that should be more of an open discussion about what it means to sort of deal with trauma and get the psychological help that you need, whether it's therapy or whatnot. So I think that this film did a good job at sort of showing this whole thing about the cyclical way that trauma works. But that's just my thoughts, my opinions, and I also share what the director wanted to say. I'd like to know your thoughts and opinions on Smile down below. And as always, that is going to do it for me. If you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell. Make sure that you are turning on that notification bell, because we have a ton of videos today. We have the Black Adam video as well as a Megan video, and we are currently running our giveaway, which is going to run all the way up until October 29th. So you still have time to enter by the time you're watching this video, hopefully, if it's still October 2022. So make sure you're entering that giveaway. We will be giving away movie tickets as well as some goodies from some of the movies I've watched this year and a ton of other stuff. So if you want to know more about that, make sure you go to the giveaway video. It is in the channel. But as always, let me know your thoughts and opinions on Smile and what you think. And I will also leave resources or any of that for people who currently are struggling with mental health and all of that as well in the description below. But as always, thank you for tuning in. I'll see you next time. Stay safe, stay positive.